mindset is the story you tell yourself. It is the story you tell yourself. What are stories made up of? Words and breath. Words and breath. Those are the ones and zeros of mindset.
This is Virtuous Leaders, the podcast for based Catholics who will speak truth, do good, or die trying. Here's the show. Andy, you help creators rediscover and live their divine identity through sacred and prophetic acts of love. I actually laughed out loud when I read that. That was so cool and powerful, and also abstruse, I think is the technical term. So can you just walk us through what you do and why?
Yes. So before you hit record, Johan was giving me a hard time and saying like, what are you, is this like is this a hippie movement? Yes and no. So what this ultimately is HEAL is a personal development coaching practice for Catholics. And what we coach Catholics in is a specific system for organizing your life. And the specific goal of that system is to help you become a saint. That's the short of it. There's 3 principles.
That's awesome, dude. Yeah, let's get into the principles.
Nice. Okay, cool. Well, buckle up. We start off nice and gradual. Principle number 1 is be God. So we are coming from the belief that God from all eternity, not because we disobeyed him and then he had a plan B, but from all eternity desired to share not just part of his life, but all of his life entirety with us. And we see this in the person of Jesus Christ. So Jesus Christ defines, not only saves humanity, but also defines it. And who is Jesus? He is one person. At the same time, he is fully God and fully man. So our first principle with HEAL is that that's the end game, is that we are designing our lives to become full participants in the divine nature. So that's principle number 1. Now, you tell me if there needs to be any either damage control or qualifications or sources or whatever. Sometimes that freaks people out. Sometimes it excites them. What's your initial response to principle 1?
Yeah, I can see how it can be misunderstood, especially in like a quasi-Gnostic context. But I think for my audience, they're tracking pretty clearly here. So I love it. I agree.
Okay, yeah, the quasi-Gnostic, that's well, you know what, that's a good transition to principle number 2. One time I was talking with a buddy who's in the New Age movement, and we were talking spirituality, and he thought that he was, building a bridge, and he's like, yeah, man, what did he say? I'm a spiritual being having a human experience. I'm a spiritual being having a human experience. So part of what the Gnostics got wrong was thinking that physical things are in opposition to spiritual things. And by extension, human nature is in opposition to the divine nature. Again, Jesus Christ clarifies this. They are not in opposition. One of my favorite lines on that is, let me pull this up here. Well, you get this when you look at like the tradition of how the church has developed its understanding of the Trinity, and then also of the person of Jesus Christ. The shortest line that I really like to quote is from Saint Pope Leo I, Doctor of the Church, obviously. And he says, God is not changed. He's describing the incarnation. God is not changed by his compassion, nor is man swallowed up by such dignity. For each nature does what is proper to each in communion with the other. So principle number 2 is clarifying what does a holy life look like. The average Christian is thinking God is holding back on them, is threatened by their growth, and in some way can't be trusted. They wouldn't say that out loud, but that's what's operating in the heart. And so they think that the sort of the extent of their Christian life is to be subservient to God and um, to let him remain as their master. The sort of like a rare group in that, or a rare subgroup, are those who take God at his word and understand that he is calling them into his own life. But even if you're talking to that group of people, you still have the majority of them working under a misconception of what that looks like. What does it look like to participate in the divine nature? Most or many Christians conceive that as primarily a negation of the self.
Yeah, most individuals conceive this primarily as a negation of the self.
Yes, as a negation of the self. So, again, this is not saying that the average Christian is walking around explicitly saying this, but it's an image that is operating in the back of their mind. Ultimately, you could bring it down to a misunderstanding of Galatians 2:20. It is no longer I who live, but Christ who lives in me. And the picture of holiness is that, okay, here's God, here's me, and I have this high vision. It's not like I'm saying that I'm not called to participate in the divine nature. I am saying that I'm called to participate in the divine nature. The only problem is that I have this conception that divinity somehow destroys or chews up or dissolves whatever it makes contact with. So that under the name of self-sacrifice, or under the name of, generosity or humility, I pursue a life in which I slowly erode myself in order to melt into God. And so principle number 2 is to safeguard against that misunderstanding. And principle number 2 is be yourself. So principle number 1, be God. Principle number 2, be yourself. These are simultaneously operative. And the third principle, and then we can kind of pick around and, we can kind of go into deeper parts, whatever you find most interesting. The third principle is to be fruitful. So, okay, wait, I am not only called to participate fully in the life of God, the way I participate in that is not despite myself, but it is through myself, once self is properly understood, as in the image of God that he created, that exists in you at your core, that is not, what is substantially there rather than what is not there when we sin. So not only am I called to participate in his life, how I do that is not by changing who I am at my core, but receiving who I am at my core. And then how is that actually lived out? So the third principle is to be fruitful. So heal is working from an understanding that not only is the self properly understood, not only is the self sacred, but work itself is sacred as well. So when I express myself through my work, I am not hitting a spiritual pause button. I'm not engaging in some kind of necessary evil, but it is in the mundane that I experience and participate in the mystical. So those three principles again: be God, be yourself, and be fruitful. And we can go deeper on any one of those three, but what initially attracts you, or what's an initial question that you have based off of that overview?
How does that apply to helping professionals in their workflow?
Okay. So the
That's my
initial,
understanding of what you do. Correct me if I'm wrong.
yes. Okay. So how does it, the way that you're thinking, seeing it right now, how does it not apply?
I guess I'm looking for practical takeaways. So it's not so much that it's in conflict, it's more just I'm curious, okay, well, what are the practical strategies that you recommend?
Yes. Okay, cool. So just like how in the person of Jesus, the divine and the human coexist, we're working from a standpoint that the theoretical or the philosophical coexist with the practical. So the first point here is to allow the Christian to wake up and hear with full clarity what exactly the purpose of their life is. Not only the purpose, but also the shape and color of it. If you are working with someone who is, burnt out and they're struggling with work-life imbalance and they haven't actually been present with their kids on a vacation in 10 years, I'll argue the least practical thing you can do is start handing them a planner or give them these tips and tricks or life hacks on how they're going to clear through their email faster. None of that is actually waking up or breaking through the crust of why they're there in the first place. The main, most practical truth is who we are called to be and how that looks. So first and foremost, pausing and letting ourselves do a double take on these initial principles. What if we understood them as something practical rather than as something relegated to the abstract? What would that really mean? Well, a couple things. One, it would mean that um, if I am currently conceiving of my day-to-day decisions as somehow this um, spiritually neutral thing in which I am, okay, I need to sort of like operate, I need to pay the bills, so I'll interact with these things, but I can't wait till I get a break so that I can pray during the day. The first thing is to have that misconception shattered. Now, if that's all it is, so the argument there is that we have to start there. We have to start there. Does it end there? No, that's the beginning of the practical piece. A continuation of the practical piece is when we drill into that third principle of be fruitful. So when we talk about a fruitful life, the next most practical thing to understand is that there are three main areas in our life where we want to experience or create fruitfulness. When someone is experiencing some sort of imbalance, usually they would think of it as work-life imbalance. It's ultimately an imbalance in these three areas. So these three areas are their time and to-dos, their emotion and mindset, and their knowledge and wisdom. We talk about that as their hands, their heart, and their head. If we want to be fully ourselves, we want to be fully operating in all three of those areas. The common mistake is either to only focus on one of those areas. So that could be like if you only focus on the hands, you become the super successful, fancy, multi-founder person who doesn't actually like hanging out with his wife, or his kids don't really talk to him. That's overdoing the hands and forgetting the other pieces. Or it can be this super smart academic person, but you're crippled by social anxiety and you don't know how to manage the day-to-day, so you're always late or lost in your papers or whatever. That is overdoing the head and missing the balance of the hands and the heart. Or you can be the sort of forever healer with 10 different therapists for 20 years of your life, perpetually talking about healing, present tense, never achieving a state of being healed or experiencing a healed life. And that is an imbalance of only the heart that doesn't know how to connect to the hands or the head. So that is mistake number one. Common mistake number one is to forget that there's 3 areas and to only be thinking of one. Common mistake number 2 is to think you need to have 3 different systems in order to maintain fruitfulness in those 3 areas. And the alternative, which is a lot easier, is to have a single system that is able to scale all 3 areas. Now, before I say anything else, let's sync up with each other. I said that because you asked, how does this affect the, everyday Catholic professional? How does this get practical? How does that relate to your question, and does it create further follow-up questions?
Yeah, I think just you asking that question is a good coaching strategy, which I appreciate. And I was reflecting as you were speaking. I think what's going to make this most effective for me to understand, and perhaps for the audience as well,
Nice.
is to do some micro coaching here. So that way we're
Okay,
applying
cool.
it to a specific example. So how would you're talking to me, you're coaching me. Where do we go from here? Realizing that I know we have much less time than you would in a normal coaching session.
Okay, cool. So what we'll do is I'll explain the number one, biggest universal thing that needs to be happening there. And
Yeah.
then we can play some smaller contained games
Yeah.
that'll demonstrate some things that relate to the area of the heart. Okay.
Okay.
So overall, most important principle is to maintain connection with the senses. If you're stressed out or overwhelmed or apathetic or whatever, a major lever is that you are disconnected from your physical senses. The rookie mistake is to think the main thing to do is to think more about your life. Thinking more about your life is going to keep you in the cycle, and it's a fancy and disguised version of overthinking. What you really want to do, whether it's in the heart, the hands, or the head, and I'll demonstrate this in a second, is you want to incorporate the physical senses. That's how you get out of overthinking, and that's how you get into making sense. And I mean that very literally. So Aquinas talks about the physical senses being the material cause of intellectual knowledge. We are not designed to interface with either the things that we want or the problems that we're perceiving. We're not designed to interface with those simply up in our head. Now, the current of our time is such that we tend to live a very virtual, low sensorial lifestyle. We sit in a chair and we stare at a screen and we don't really use our body that much. So we have this low grade inclination of, okay, I start to feel some dissonance and I go straight up into my head. So the first main thing we want to do is we want to incorporate the physical senses. So writing is the easiest way that you can do that. If you're stressed out about something, write out what you are stressed about and why you're currently feeling stressed. And maybe once you start writing that sentence, you'll realize, well, is stress actually the emotion that I'm feeling, or is there a different word here that relates? So if I were working with you or you were working with me, the first thing I would do is I would instruct you to write 1 to 2 paragraphs about what you would want help with. Because that immediately brings you to your senses. You start touching the thing, you start seeing the thing, and then I would instruct you to read it out loud, because then you're going to start hearing it. You'll also feel the vibrations of the words, which is very important in helping you make sense. So that's how I would typically do it. Any thoughts on that initial response?
No, I'm following you. Let's keep going.
Okay, cool, sweet. So, how does that actually play out in a way that we can condense to the time that we have? Well, here's how we can condense it. Let's look at the area of the heart. This is your mindset and your emotions. What you believe is going to be tied up with what you feel, and vice versa. What you feel is going to be tied up with what you believe. Now, Dr. Johan, what's your current rough draft definition of mindset?
Mindset. Something about your attitude towards reality.
Nice. Okay, cool. Awesome. To the listener, if you want a really hard to practice definition, Google mindset. You'll get something along the lines of a fixed disposition, as in it's already set in stone. So good luck operating with it. Usually you'll get some combination of it's your destiny, and here's a bunch of fancy academic, scholarly sounding words that you have no idea how to interface with. The most practical definition of mindset is the story you tell yourself. What are stories made up of? Words and breath. Words and breath. Those are the ones and zeros of mindset. If you want to have a healthy mindset, you want to create a healthy mindset, you want to be skilled with your words, and you want to be skilled with your breath. Now, we will play a game here that isolates the variable of words. If we wanted to incorporate breath, that would be a longer conversation. There are a set of key containers of words. You could say patterns of words that once you see it, you can't unsee it. And whenever someone is clogged up, it is ultimately due to, at least in part, it's a mechanical issue at the level of words. So what do I mean by that? Let's play a couple language games and then we'll call it good. So do you have something that you can write on or write with?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. Let's play 3 language games. Here's the first language game I'd like you to play. I want you to write the following words down. How, and dear listener, please play along. How will I ever ... How will I ever ... Okay. Now I want you to fill in your own ... So make it a complete sentence in the form of a question.
Change the world.
Awesome. Cool. So actually write that in.
Okay.
Okay. And now you're seeing that sentence?
Yep.
Cool. Read it out loud.
How will I ever change the world?
Okay. How does that sentence feel to say out loud?
On the one hand, maybe a little bit naive or embarrassing. And on the other hand, it's helpful to have some concrete clarity.
Okay, cool. Okay, great. How about the naive or embarrassing feeling? Let's say 1 is low, 10 is high. What's the degree of that feeling?
3.5.
3.5. Okay, nice. Okay, very cool. So do you see, look at the sentence again.
Okay.
Do you see the word ever?
Yeah.
Okay, select that and delete it.
Okay.
And now reread.
How will I change the world?
Okay, so I heard and saw in your face something different. So
Yeah.
tell me the difference. What does this version feel like?
A lot more definitive. Inspires confidence. I can do this.
Mm-hmm. And did I pay you to say that?
No, no, but you should.
Not
You
yet.
should.
Not yet, at least. Yeah, appreciate it. So great. Okay, so that word ever belongs to a category called dramatics. It's pressure language. So ever, always, never, should. A lot of people are shoulding on themselves. I should do this. I should do that. I should, and take out should, put in could. It'll feel a lot better. It'll feel a lot better. And the words we use paints the images in our mind. It paints our imagination. And so many people have very good intention, poor imagination, not because of any lack of innate ability. It's just they're shooting themselves in the foot with their own words. All right, you want to play 2 other games?
Yeah, that was cool.
Okay, sweet. How about this one? Okay, I have a lot. It's a very different style one. I have a lot of anxiety.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead and read that sentence out loud.
I have a lot of anxiety.
And again, we're not saying like whatever. What kind of feeling does that kind of sentence create?
I have a lot of anxiety. You know, honestly, I'm not able to detect anything. Maybe because it's just not something that I would say or think.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So then you can answer it from like the outside vibe or like the objective vibe of it. So I know that you're not subjectively feeling something when you read that, but the general vibe. What's the general vibe that kind of sentence creates?
I'm terrified. The world is so cold.
Okay. Nice.
I'm all alone.
Okay. Great.
I need to hire Johan D'Souza. I need to hire Dr. D'Souza.
Okay. So do you see that word have, second word?
Okay.
Select it
All right.
and replace it with the word create.
Ooh. I create a lot of anxiety. Oh no. Am I that person? What are you
What's
doing to
the
me, Andy?
what's what's the oh no?
I don't want to create anxiety in people's lives.
Okay.
Oh, I guess you're
Um,
saying I'm creating my own anxiety. Is that what you're trying to hear? Is that what this is about?
oh, yes, I see. I see. Correct. This is
Okay.
like a
Okay.
first person. Yeah.
Got it.
Yes.
Got it. Okay. Oh, okay. I create a lot of anxiety. Oh, okay. Well, hey, I can do something about this. I can change this.
Bingo. Right. Exactly. Exactly. So this is moving. Have is a sneaky version of what's called a projection. Projections do a great job of putting what you want out of arm's reach. It's out there. It's either inevitable or it's destiny or it's someone else's fault or whatever. A reflection highlights what part of the situation you have control over. So it puts you back in the driver's seat.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So we can turn that up even more. We could, for example, between of and anxiety, put in the word my.
I create a lot of my anxiety. Yeah. Yeah, that's so true. Thank you.
Yeah. So, yep. So at first it can feel like a sucker punch or whatever, a kick in the teeth. In reality, um, this is liberating because it means there's something we can do about it, and it helps us realize that again. So, like a quick example, I was working with a mom, and she was working on organizing an emotion that was related to um, a middle school experience. So there was this early middle school experience in which she was waiting in the principal's office for in order to participate for academic competition, and she was just scaring the crap out of herself and tons of pressure. And now, if I was wanting to do a good job of not helping her, I would ask her to just verbally tell me all about this story. I'd make sure that she'd never be able to see the actual words that she's using, so that she would just spiral and cycle in this story, and either talk with me for a couple of sessions and then feel like it didn't go anywhere, hop to another therapist, talk to a couple sessions, feel like it doesn't go anywhere, and talk herself in circles. Luckily, I didn't do that. I had her write out the story. And so because we wrote out that story, we got to see a very little interesting sentence in that story, which was, I loved academic competitions and they took it away from me.
Aw.
Yikes. Well, that's an interesting response. We looked at the structure of that sentence. Again, a lot of this is a mechanical thing. We took out they and we put an I. I loved academic competitions and I took it away from me. And let her stare at that without smarty pants, without look what you've done vibe, with honest, open curiosity, without any judgment. And what does that do? that she lit up. She's like, well, if I took it away from me, I can give it back.
Yes. Good job.
I can give it back. And so then, 2 months later, she's telling me how she's getting back into reading and writing, and she's picking up all these other hobbies. Because one, she realized that her emotions are an area of her life that can be organized. And two, she used all her physical senses to participate in that organization. She didn't just talk about it and only hear it. She was able to see it and touch it, and then therefore create a lot more fruit out of it. Shall we end with one other game?
Okay, I think we'll have to do this one quick, though.
Okay, cool. It'll be one more for the listener. And but do also write this sentence out. We won't do a debrief. We'll do the change, and then you close with whatever you would like, and cool. So write out these words, dear listener. I surrender to God's will for my life, even if that means an outcome that I don't want.
All my life's work collapses before my eyes. Hey, this isn't a joke, Andy. This isn't a laughing matter.
Did you have a great dry delivery? Okay, so I surrender to God's will for my life, even if that means an outcome that I don't want. Please read that sentence out loud.
I surrender to God's will for my life, even if that means all my life's work collapses before my eyes. It's liberating. I like that.
Okay, cool, sweet. So we've talked about dramatics to moderations. That was taking out even. We've talked about a projection to a reflection. That is, I have a lot of anxiety to I create a lot of my anxiety. Now we're going to play with something that's called a negation. And negation is what is not the case, what you don't want, what you don't believe, what you don't like, blah, blah, blah. flipping it to what is the case, what you do want, what you do feel, etc. So you see that second to last word, Johan, don't. I want you to select the N, the apostrophe, and the T, and I want you to delete it and then reread the entire sentence.
Wait, sorry, there's no don't in here.
You should have the following sentence on your document. I surrender to God's will for my life, even if that means an outcome that I don't want.
Oh, sorry. I thought that was like parenthetical and I was supposed to put the outcome that I don't want.
No,
Okay.
put that whole thing in.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Even if that means an outcome that I don't want. Okay. Even if that means an outcome that I do want. Huh. I never would have thought of it like that. I surrender to God's will for my life, even if that means an outcome that I do want. All right. This is a head scratcher here. Yeah. It's like giving me permission to be successful.
Take out the like. It's like giving me permission to be successful. It's giving me permission to be successful.
It's giving me permission to be successful. Dude, you're good.
Look at the sentence. It's giving me permission to be successful.
No,
change it to I.
I'm giving me permission to be successful. I'm giving me permission to be successful. Darn it. I'm giving me permission to be successful.
Are you giving or is it already given? I give permission.
Oh, wow. I give permission to be.
We're playing.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't know how you do this kind of jujitsu, this verbal jujitsu, worthy of a analytical philosopher. Are you an analytical philosopher?
Who knows?
That was a good response. An analytical philosopher would say that.
Would say that. So I know we're at time. How would you like to wrap things up?
Why don't you pitch where people can find you?
Okay. So you said I never thought about it that way. That is a large part a mechanical opportunity. So the words that we use shape the thoughts that we have and the images that we paint in our mind and the feelings that we feel in our heart. You can learn this. It is a learnable skill. It's not complicated. And we can focus on that. There's 4 main patterns. If you'd like to learn more about those patterns, how that plays into your mindset, and if you'd like to learn a method for organizing your life that doesn't just extend to mindset, but also is applicable to how you organize your to-do lists, also how you organize your knowledge. If you're a writer or thinker or speaker, come to our website, www.heal.co. That is HEL.co. Poke around, click the buttons. And I've written a series of letters in which I explain these principles, and all that can be read for free. Going to our website, heal.co.
Thank you, Andy. Thanks for listening. Please like, subscribe, and share with your friends. See you next time.